All right, so we're starting today with the first chapter of the book Ask and It Is Given. I don't know if you've had the chance to read the chapter before or not. It doesn't matter either way. Let's dig into it and we'll figure it out as we go. So, chapter 1. Before we launch into it, the chapter is called The Power of Feeling Good Now. Before we launch into the chapter, let's just talk about the book and how it evolved. Now, the book is structured in two parts. The first part has 22 chapters, and the second part also has 22 chapters. The first part is basically supposed to lay the foundation for understanding law of attraction, and part 2 is called processes. Now, we want to differentiate between the processes and what is commonly referred to as rituals. Processes are not the same as rituals. So I want to explain the difference between what is usually referred to as a process by Abraham and what we call a ritual. A ritual gives power to something outside of you, and a process gives you power because you're in control and you are working the process. And that is the main difference. When you start using rituals, sometimes you can get good results and sometimes you get not so good results. The difference between the two is that when you do a process, if you keep doing the process, it builds your self-worth and it builds confidence in your ability to use law of attraction. Whereas when you use a ritual, you start depending on something that's outside of you, and that doesn't work really well, because then you're not sure whether it was something you did wrong in using the process, in using the ritual. Was one of the ingredients not right? Was the timing wrong? So you're continuously searching for the right formula for doing the process, the ritual. Whereas in the process, you don't have to worry about any of that because you are the only ingredient. Remember, you are the only ingredient in a process. And so with practice, you can learn to improve how you do processes. You can improve your results because all it takes is just a little bit of practice. If you practice, you can get better with doing the processes. So let's now talk about the history of the book. So the book came about just before the Secret was released. So the book is probably, I think it was first published maybe in 2004, and the Secret movie was released in 2005. And if you listen to the audio of the book, so for me, I have the physical book, I also have the audio book, and I get different things from both. When I listen to the audio, I get a different nugget than when I read the actual physical book. So today what I did was, I did both. I did a little bit of both. And that just makes it fun for me. As far as I'm concerned, I have fun with that. Okay. The power of feeling good now. In this chapter, basically, the chapter starts out with Abraham giving an introduction to themselves. And they call themselves non-physical. And then they speak to us and really remind us that a part of us is also non-physical. And the reason they do that is because they're reminding us that all communication can be vibrational, just in the same manner that Abraham communicates with Esther. That is a vibrational communication, and then Esther is the one who uses words in order to convey the meaning that she has received vibrationally. So we can all actually start communicating with each other at a vibrational level. And that happens when you think about someone and that person picks up the phone and calls you. That's you having vibrational communication with this other person. So we're doing it in some way, shape, or form every day because we can't help vibrating. Vibration is a part of the way our human body functions. Every time we think a thought, the cells of our body vibrate in response to that thought. So we are emitting vibration all the time, and that's why when you walk into a room and if somebody is angry or upset, you can feel it. If somebody is happy, you can feel that too. And depending on how closely you're related with this person, how tuned in you are to their vibration, you can actually even tell what they might be thinking about. Has it ever happened to you that you repeat the same words that come out of someone else's mouth, right? At the same time, you both think of the same thing. That means you're in tune with each other. That's vibrational communication, because it's vibration even though we don't realize it because we don't pay attention to our vibration on a day-to-day basis, but we receive each other's vibration, and that is what happens. That's what helps us to respond the way we respond to people, places, events, whatever is taking place in our environment. That's basically what's happening. We are responding based on our vibrational interpretation. And that's what we call our perspective. We call it our intuition. We give it so many different ways, but at the end of the day, it is all about vibration. So Abraham says, in this non-physical realm, we do not use words. We communicate with vibration. And the thing to take away from that is that we can all communicate with that entity that we call God, or that entity that Abraham calls source or non-physical. We can all communicate with that entity through vibration. In fact, we are always communicating with that entity, but we are not really listening to what's coming back our way. We are sending out and we are being sent, but we are not receiving, and that's only because we cannot, we are not good at interpreting what we are receiving. Let's look at the next important point here. The next important point is intention. Abraham talks about what their intention is. And Abraham's intention is to remind us that we are physical extensions of that which they are. We are physical extensions of what they are. And so, if we are an extension, then that means that we are always connected. We are a part of that which we call God, of that which we call the universe. We are a part of that. And we are never separated, except that we don't pay attention to the messages that we are receiving from there. The most important thing that Abraham talks about here is that you only hear what you are ready to hear. If someone is teaching a lesson, but you're not ready for that lesson, even though the teacher is there and is doing whatever they can using the words that they're using, but if you're not in a place, then you are not going to be able to hear what that teacher is saying. So the most important thing is to be in tune with the vibration of that which we call source. Because if we are in tune with that energy that we call source, then we will be able to hear that energy. And how do we get in tune with that which we call source? Well, we have to be at the same vibrational level with that. And what is the vibrational level of that which we call God, or that which we refer to as source? The vibrational level of that which we call God, or that which we call source, is the vibration of love and joy. It's way up here, love and joy. And when we observe the world around us, the people that are around us, from that place of love and joy, then we see things, we see those people as source. We relate better to them, because when source looks at someone, source only sees perfection. When you look at someone, do you see the perfection of that person, or do you see flaws in their personality? If you see them as perfect, even though you're annoyed with them, even though they have upset you in some way, even though you want to get away from them, you want to run away from them, if you can see the perfection of their being, only then are you lined up and seeing them the way Source is seeing them. And if you can do that, only then can you be lined up with Source and be able to hear the information, the guidance that is being sent to you vibrationally. And that is really important. So the next time you look at someone, ask yourself that question. Am I looking at this person through the eyes of Source? Or am I looking at this person through eyes that are conditioned because of the beliefs that I hold, because of the way that I have trained myself in the past to look at this person? How am I looking at them? Which pair of eyes am I using? Am I using the pair of eyes that I've always used? Or am I using the pair of eyes that is connected to the energy that I call Source? So let's move on. Okay, so what's next? All right, so Abraham then is saying all human beings have access to that stream of energy that Esther has access to. So in the same way that Abraham flows to Esther and Esther is able to interpret that, then in the same way you can too. So if we wanted to, we can all tap into that energy. And I'll tell you something, you do. I do. I know that when someone asks me a question, I can tap into the solution really, really quickly. I know that when I'm doing certain things that I really, really enjoy, that I'm in a sort of a feeling of flow. For example, when I'm cooking, I'm in that feeling of flow. I hardly ever measure anything to throw into the pot. And that's because I'm following a feeling, not a recipe. I know, right? Don't do that. Don't do that until you're sure that you can do that. A lot of people are in a state of flow when they're doing things like playing a sport. Because when someone is playing a sport, they are completely zoned in. They are completely focused to the exclusion of everything, especially those people who are on the ice maybe, or who are playing a competitive sport, even though they are in the middle of an arena, they are so focused that they don't see the crowd. They don't see the crowd. They don't hear the crowd. They are not able to, they don't deviate their attention. They are able to deviate their attention if they wanted to, but they don't purposefully, they do not deviate their attention from what they have to do, because they are in the flow. And when you're in the flow, you don't want to go anywhere. You want to stay there. And I'll tell you something, it only takes practice. What we see Esther doing, and she has been doing for so many years, if you go back and you listen to and watch the earlier recordings of Abraham, and Esther even talks about it, that she used to look comical, because when she started in the beginning, she wasn't translating that vibration that she got as a block of thought. She wasn't translating it into words that she was speaking in the beginning. In the beginning, it was letters that she would recognize, and then she would spell a word. And then it was typewriter. She would type them on a typewriter. And she's slowly evolved into what we see today. If you listen to the older recordings, they're very jilted. They're the sound is very different. And I remember listening to so many tapes of Abraham where Abraham sounds different in one recording from the Abraham in the second recording, and that's because she was practicing. She was learning it. She had not learned it completely. She was in the process of learning it. And so with practice, all of us can get there. It's a desire. Some people have that desire and other people don't have that desire at all. Some people want to do it, and other people are they're quite happy just doing what they're doing, and they are able to improve their life with what they've learned, and they're not really interested in flowing the energy in order to help other people. So I guess what I want to say is that that's the main difference between someone like Esther, who is flowing that energy through her and allowing the answers to other people's questions to come through her. Not everyone wants to do that, but it would be to our benefit if we would tap in and be able to allow that energy to flow through us and be able to allow the answers to come through us for us, so that we can improve our lives. And that's really what it's all about. It's about us wanting to improve our life. And then Abraham goes on to say that on occasion, a clear channel of communication opens. What they're doing, what they're really saying is they're referring to Esther as being that clear channel of communication. And if you listen to other tapes from Abraham, you'll find that Abraham says that Esther was one of those people who was generally happy. What does that mean? If she was generally happy, then her vibration was high. It was over here at a place of love and joy. Most of the time, she was in a place of love and joy. The other really important thing that Abraham has revealed about Esther is that she wasn't a complex thinker. You know how a lot of us are really complex thinkers? I know I am one of them. My head is always busy, always thinking of something, and it's way better now. I've slowed that down so much because of my practice of meditation and my actual focus on slowing things down and focusing better on things that I'm doing. But Esther, according to Abraham, usually had an empty head, so she wasn't really thinking about things. And really, as Abraham tells us, it was Jerry who was asking the questions, but Jerry could not receive the answers because he was a complex thinker. There was too much going on in his head. But his asking was so big that the answers had to come, and the answers therefore found their way to him through Esther. Jerry asked all the questions, and most of the books that Abraham wrote in the beginning were written in response to the questions that Jerry was asking. So, with practice, anyone can learn to do what Esther is doing. But everybody is different, because some people are in, they want to help other people, and then there are those people who only want to use that information in order to improve their lives, but that's okay. Now, one of the most important things that Abraham has said in this chapter is that manifesting is something very important. I forget where they say that. I think they said that earlier on in the chapter, but manifesting is part of being spiritual. And therefore, manifesting, it's okay to have your focus on manifesting, because manifesting is a way for you to know whether or not you're aligned, because when you're aligned, you manifest everything that you want. And then, let's see. So the message that Abraham is giving to us next is that it is our powerful desire that you be pleased with where you are right now, in this moment, no matter where you are. Because when we make peace with where we are, when we don't look at something and attach a condition to it, when we look at someone or a thing and we see the perfection of it, that is when we are lined up with that which we call God. If you see someone and maybe they were unpleasant to you the last time that you met them, now you're not seeing them through the eyes of Source, because you are now seeing them through the lens of the past. But Source doesn't do that. When Source looks at this same person, Source sees the perfection of them. And so we have to bring ourselves to a place where we see the perfection of everything in order for us to get the most out of this experience of these 45 days of studying this book. And the reason is because if this was the emotional scale, and here was love and joy, and right here at the bottom was depression and despair, then at every level you could read this book, this same book, and if you read it from here, you would get something different out of it. If you read it from here, you'd get something different. And if you read it over here, from here, you would get a totally different message. You would probably get very little out of your first reading if you were over here. But if you came back and improved your vibration, you'd get more. And you would really get everything that the book has to offer from there, from the top. And that's one of the things that Abraham is telling us here. And so what I want to say to you is, pre-pave coming back for chapter 2. Pre-pave sitting down and reading this book and getting the most out of it. Pre-pave getting the most out of our discussion here together. And before you start reading, if it is your intention to get the maximum benefit out of this book, just take a few seconds before you start reading it and before you join this discussion here. Just close your eyes and just breathe. Breathe and tell yourself and send the vibration out into the universe that says that you are ready. You are ready for what this book has to offer. You are ready for the message that's contained in these pages. You are ready for manifesting the life that you want. You are ready to start receiving your guidance and to start acting upon it. And when you pre-pave these things, then our reading of this book is going to be life-changing for you as well as for me. So let's see. That is basically all that is in this first chapter. Abraham ends by saying that this book will help you understand that you never ever get it done. It will help you to understand your relationship with your history and with your future. But most important, it will awaken within you your awareness of the potency of your powerful now. This book will help you understand who you really are, who you have been and where you are going and all that you continue to be. So it is my pleasure to join you on this journey, and I'm going to look forward to our reading or our interpretation of chapter 2 tomorrow. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.